Hello, my friends, my dear flat earth friends. How are you guys doing today? I'm very happy to present today this video talking about Amelia Earhart. And for the first time, you're going to see her flight path on the flat earth map I have never seen. And this is a high resolution flat earth map that I have drawn her flight path, and it will be available for downloading. You can see all the details. Look at Atlanta, Washington, Nashville, and the cities that she flew by. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Amelia Earhart today and the flat earth. The secret she knew. Was she silenced because she knew too much? Who knows? But this map, this amazing map, is going to be available for downloading. Because normally what you're going to find out there is this one right here. They use the Pac-Man Mercator map to explain her flight's route, and you find this online even as far back as when she started. Earhart starts on world flights. You see, so people they are afraid of flat Earth map. They will hide this map. I actually found out this week that Alex Gleason, he made his map available to, if not all, many libraries in the US, but in 1957 they just decided to hide them, all those flat earth maps that were given to those libraries, and luckily somebody found one in 2015-16, yeah, the Boston Library. That's the one that we've been used today. It was restored. So they are scared of flat earth map, so they show this Pac-Man map all the time, the Mercator. There it is again. So this is a flight route according to the Mercator. This is a flight route according to the flat earth map. So let's look at this for a minute. This darker black line is the equator. So we can see that most of her trip was between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer. Most of the time. So she left Oakland in the US, Tucson, New Orleans, Miami, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Caripito in Venezuela, and then Paramaribo. Then she crossed the equator to Brazil, Fortaleza, Brazil, and Natal, Brazil. She crossed the equator, and then she crossed back to when she went to Africa, and these are the places she traveled through in Africa, until she reached the Middle East here. From there, she went to the Arabian Peninsula, and then Karachi, Pakistan. Then from there, Calcutta in India, Bangkok, and then other places here in Southeast Asia, Singapore. Then she crossed the equator again towards these islands here. And then she went to Port Darwin in Australia. And she traveled here. And the red line means that the places she flew over there, these places right here. All the red lines are her flight path. Now the blue ones was the ones that she was supposed to fly, but then she disappeared when she was close to Howland Island. But that's why it's blue. It's like incomplete. She was supposed to fly Howland Island, then Hawaii, back to Auckland. So you can see on the flat earth map how everything makes more sense. Her flight path, and this wonderful map with her flight path will be available online. I want to thank Eric Dubay. I sent him this map and he made a file available online. So you guys, I'm going to place the link here. You can download it if you're a history teacher. You want to teach the things the way they really work. This is the flat earth map showing Amelia's flight path on the flat earth. Now, I will add some footage. First, I'm going to be reading from the book that we use. We actually use a book in our school, and there's a chapter that talks about Amelia Earhart. So I'm going to be reading a passage that book. Then we're gonna add some more footage from other channel that I found really interesting about Amelia Earhart. First of all, I wanna also show you guys this thing here. Yes, this is Amelia, and this is Admiral Byrd. Did she know about the flat Earth? More picture here, Amelia, Admiral Byrd, the same one who said there is more land beyond Antarctica.
Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
This is a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
And that's her again, Amelia Earhart, Admiral Byrd, right here. Not sure if those pictures were taken the same day, because this picture and this one, she is not only wearing the same clothes, but you can see as a photographer myself, this is one camera right here, and this is the second shooter shooting from the side. So these two was taken at the same day, of course. This seems to have been taken a different day. He's wearing uniform, of course, but she's wearing different clothes. But this is really interesting. Okay, so she probably knew. And one more thing that I want to talk about maps. It seems like she had a problem with the Mercator. Now, everybody had problems with the Mercator. I showed a couple videos ago how during the Second World War, they needed a reliable map. Reason why they came up with the projection, the azimuthal equidistant projection during the Second World War, because the globe wasn't working. The Mercator map wasn't working. So they came up with several different printing of the flat Earth map during the Second World War, as we see here in this video. During the Second World War, you see lots of flat Earth map coming to light, being published, because they could not count on the globe or the Mercator.
Everything started to change in the mid-20th century. There was a world war, and more airplanes were being used than ever before. Editorials published in the New York Times in the 40s called for the Mercator to be discarded and reminded readers the grossness of its errors should not be forgotten. In a series of orthographic maps in 1942 and 43, Fortune magazine declared the Mercator is no map for global war, and it was a dangerous map to use in studying global strategy. An expose on cartography Life published around the same time called the Mercator a mental hazard in a war that is plotted on great circles across the land and sea and through the air.
There are several versions of it, and you see pictures, even Hitler, next to flat Earth map, and I'm going to be displaying here, and as you see here displayed, some of the ones came up during the Second World War. Because Earth is not a globe, they could not rely on a globe projection or a Mercator projection, and so many problems they had, so that's why they came up with the flat Earth map during the World War II. Now nowadays it's different because most airplanes fly themselves. Okay, you have the automatic pilot, they program, they punch in the numbers, they basically fly themselves. So, you know, there are pilotless planes out there. So let's go ahead and watch these couple videos. Amelia was born in her grandparents' house in Kansas. Her parents didn't have any money, but her grandparents were rich and sent her to the best schools. At 20, she decided to study nursing and worked in a hospital in World War I. When she was 23, she visited an air show and went up in a plane. At that moment, she knew that she wanted to be a pilot. In 1920, flying was dangerous and people didn't think it was an activity for women. But Amelia took flying lessons, and a year later, she broke her first record. She flew up to 14,000 feet. She married at 34 but never had children. The next year, she became the first woman and the second person to fly alone across the Atlantic. She was now famous and she traveled around the world to talk about her experiences. And in 1935, when she was 38, she became the first person to fly alone across the Pacific. When she was nearly 40, Amelia wanted to be the first woman to fly around the world. She began the 29,000-mile flight to Miami on June 1, 1937. On July 2nd, she was nearly at the end of her journey when she and her plane disappeared near Howland Island in the Pacific Ocean. These are rare images. Footage released for the first time shows pilot Amelia Earhart before her ill-fated attempt to fly around the world in 1937. These images were taken just before her flight and came from Amelia Earhart's last photo shoot, Burbank, California, May 1937. It was made public in 2015. So these are rare images of Amelia before she disappeared. Very rare. So there are many other theories that she was captured by the Japanese, or even some people said that once she crossed the equator, she followed and went to Antarctica. Was it true? We don't know. We don't really know what happened for sure.
We all know that Amelia was known for getting lost, but no one knew why, because it was told she kept ending back where she started. But this didn't transpire until after the North America trip. She didn't start getting lost until she decided to take a trip around the world. The first trip she had alleged engine problems. The second trip she got lost and they blamed it on the wind current, but she managed to complete it though. The real reason was because the globe map that she followed wasn't accurate. It was told that she had to draw the map on a flat surface just to get the coordinates right, and she was often complaining how the world drew map wasn't right. Problem number one.
As the frantic and fruitless search for Amelia continues, the world may not have heard the last from her. Within hours of her disappearance, distress calls are reported by professional radio operators and later by amateurs with short-wave sets around the Pacific and across the United States. Eventually, more than 100 reports come in, and the Navy and news media take them seriously, looking for clues. If Amelia is using her radio, she must be on land. To charge her batteries, she has to run the Electra's right engine, and it can't run unless the propeller is above water. On the night of July 3rd, calls apparently from Amelia are picked up by Pan Am Airways direction finding stations at Midway, Oahu, and Wake Island. When they track the signals to their source, it's in the Phoenix Islands, which includes Gardner, now called Nikamaroro. Some of the messages could help pin down Amelia's whereabouts. In Rock Springs, Wyoming, 16-year-old Dana Randolph claims to have picked up a call from Amelia, who says she is on a reef south of the equator. A woman in eastern Canada says she hears Amelia saying that the navigator is badly injured. Perhaps the most intriguing report comes from St. Petersburg, Florida. Betty Clank was a teenager in 1937. She often spent the afternoon listening to her family's shortwave radio, which was hooked up to a powerful antenna. And she kept a notebook handy to jot down the titles and lyrics of songs she liked. One July afternoon, while searching the dial, she hears a familiar voice.
The first thing I heard was, "This is Amelia Earhart." And that startled me. She said it several times, and I recognized that voice when I heard it.
Betty shared her notebook and her memories of that day with Rick Gillespie in an interview for the Tiger Archives. She recalled that she listened for 2 hours as the signal faded in and out, and she took notes on what she heard.
She was hurting, there was something terribly wrong.
It was a voice of desperation, of a woman in grave danger. Betty heard a man's voice too. She believes he was injured, and there were sounds of a struggle.
You could hear him, but you couldn't make out what he was saying. But you could tell that she was trying to keep him away from the radio. And they wrestled around when he would try to get on.
It reads like a modern transcript of a 911 call. There's confusion. There's things going on in the background.
Betty remembers thinking she heard Amelia say New York City, and she wrote that down.
And then she writes, or something that sounds like New York. New York City, Norwich City, Norwich City. Where we think the plane landed on the reef is right near the shipwreck, the Norwich City. And so you think of Earhart and Noonan on this island, if they don't know the name of the island, and they want to communicate the one thing about this island that is unique and the piece of information they can give, there's a shipwreck there. And the name of the ship is the Norwich City.
Betty's notes about rising water would make sense if the plane were parked on the reef, subjected to shifting tides. At the time she was listening, it was nearly noon on the island. The interior of the metal plane would have been broiling hot, which could explain the injured man's desperation to get out.
He was so uncomfortable and so miserable that they would just talk. And then he would kind of get out of his head again.
The transcriptions in her notebook give us almost too intimate a picture of what was going on that reef. These people were in horrible trouble.
Some have questioned how Amelia's signals could have traveled thousands of miles to be picked up by a few random listeners in North America.
You're telling me that this young woman was the only person in the entire world that heard those communications? That doesn't seem reasonable or logical to me.
But it is possible. The kind of radio that Amelia had on her plane often created extra signals called harmonics at multiples of the original frequency. Those harmonics can bounce off the ionosphere and travel vast distances. Radio expert Bob Brandenburg believes that Amelia's normal daytime frequency of 6,210 kilohertz would generate harmonics that could reach Betty's receiver.
Those very high frequencies propagate very well. And so the way Betty described the signal, fading in and out, is exactly consistent with the way that signal would behave at that frequency being transmitted from Gardner Island.
Finally, the signal faded out completely. The voices were gone.
I don't know how long I sat there. I'd say probably, knowing me, I probably waited an hour. We never heard anymore.
Betty may be the last person ever to have heard Amelia Earhart alive. And if she really did, chances are good that Amelia was calling from Nicomaroro.
Okay, Amelia was starting to see that the Earth map wasn't real and her coordinates were all wrong. She was going by her map, but her map was taking her to the opposite direction. Why? Who knows? Because the Earth is flat, and at that time, they had no idea where the hell anything was aside from America. Everything else was literally guessed and made the hell up and seriously embellished. It was told that what forever be hidden, that she kept saying that the Earth looks flat and not round, and that nothing seems to be as it should or where it should be. She was rumored that she was going to write a book on some findings and the true element of the Earth. A big hell no. Remember the planes were becoming really popular, was starting to become really popular, and people were starting to see that the current globe map was not quite accurate, and the lines got crossed when some explorers were starting to see these lines. So that's when NASA, the Antarctic Treaty became developed. They didn't want their entire existence and lines to be revealed, not to mention other landmass aside from what we are taught that Richard E. Byrd revealed that was there that coincidentally coincides to the start of the Antarctic Treaty, and NASA became founded. But this whole thing actually started with Amelia Earhart, a woman whom they killed to hide their secret.
Alright guys, that's all for today. God bless you. I'm working on another video. Hopefully it'll be up next week. And keep it flat, keep it simple, and let's keep on spreading. For those who think, I was looking at some globe channels past week saying that Flat Earth is dying. Well, Flat Earth is being killed. That's a different. That's different than dying out. It's being killed. The opposition, just like even Bill Clinton says, never underestimate the opposition. The opposition is powerful. They own the universities, the studios, the TV stations, the artists, Hollywood, and they're very powerful and rich. And we are not. We are just people, regular people who know the truth, that the earth is flat. So these powerful people, they can manipulate the media, the internet. We have seen over and over how Google and YouTube have manipulated the numbers, the search engines. You can't find, videos that sometimes I try to find. I can't because they are hidden. Totally hidden. So the enemy plays dirty tricks. But Flat Earth is growing a lot, especially in other countries. I'm originally from Brazil, and there are many people from Brazil embracing Flat Earth. My book, I have been approached by some Japanese people, and they are translating my book into Japanese. But I'm not talking about just one guy doing a favor to another guy. I'm talking about like a company that approached me, and they hire professionals for the translation. And because there is a growing number of Japanese people interested in Flat Earth, it's been growing here exponentially. I'm also gonna be translating my book into Portuguese, which is my mother language. And I have been invited to take part of Spanish internet-based radio. I haven't done yet because my time zone is really complicated. I live in Japan, but don't believe those Globers. They are liars. Most of them work for the devil himself. He is the prince of this world, father of lies. NASA or whatever space agents. It's all fake, computer generated images, no images from space, no satellites. I challenge Wolfie 6020. I'm recording this. I have a screen recorder, so does Wolfie, and I challenge him to just go to Google and type satellites from space and see what he gets. I can do it right now. I'm gonna just open this on Google. I'm gonna write here satellites from space, and images. Sorry, I don't have my screen recorder to record the whole screen, but it's all CGI. So I challenge him to do the same thing. Just go to Google, type satellites from space, and try to find just a single one image that's not a CGI. He can't do it. It's all fakery. Space is fake. The earth is flat, guys. Wake up. So God bless you. I'll see you next time, and be safe.
Did you notice any curvature while we were up there?
No.
No? What'd you see while we were up there?
Just the blue sky, white clouds.
Yeah, is it flat or?
Pretty flat.
Pretty flat?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.